So obviously we had a really violent evening, whole weekend, I guess, here in Albuquerque. It seems like once or twice a year I do these news conferences to address violent weekends like this, which is really unfortunate because we had several weeks where we saw a lot fewer instances of gunfire and homicides and shootings. That said, I do want to update you guys on what happened this weekend, especially last night. In no particular order, I gave the times in the press release that the call-outs were made or the actual incidents happened, so generally between 1 and 2:30 p.m. Officers in the Valley Area Command were really busy last night. Start with the first one on 4th Street, Southwest, which I believe is a little south of downtown. Male and a female were in a car. I think they might have been in the downtown area, but they traveled south to that area, apparently stopped at the food truck to get something to eat, and some sort of confrontation occurred, and the male who was inside the car suffered gunshot wounds and was deceased at the scene. The female who was in the car, I'm not sure if she was inside the car or outside the car when it occurred, but she had a grazed bullet to the head, was transported to the hospital, and is still in stable condition today, is my understanding. So officers responded to that scene, homicide detectives responded, and they're still investigating that particular scene. The other two were more in the downtown area. One was, I believe, on Copper around 6th and 7th Street in an alleyway or somewhere on Copper, but apparently there were family members in a vehicle who were in the downtown area. I think they were leaving the area. Two brothers were inside the car and got into some sort of altercation. One brother stabbed the other brother in the neck. The offender got out of the vehicle, eventually made his presence known to police and gave different stories about what happened. The mother of the other individual who was the victim, the stabbing victim, she took him to an urgent care center on the west side, which I think was the only place she knew where to take him. Unfortunately, he died at that urgent care center from his wounds. Eventually, the officers they detained him initially. I think they let him go before they knew that the brother was actually stabbed. And my understanding is they're still questioning him at this point. We do expect an arrest warrant today and him to be detained and booked into the Metro County Detention Center. So that's that second one. The last one appears to be at this point an instance in the area of I think between 1st and 2nd on Gold Street of a homeless individual who was shot at a very close range by an individual. The detectives on scene they're still investigating, but there seems to be no evidence or motivation as to what happened. Officers were working in a tactical plan in the downtown area as they do every weekend. They were just a couple blocks away when they heard a single gunshot. They rushed to the scene, and that's where they found the individual. They believe he was homeless because he had a stroller or a walker or something with some of his items, and they had seen him previously in the night with that same stroller and some items with him. So they are looking for the individual. They're looking for video evidence, any witnesses, that sort of thing, but unfortunately, it's something we have seen an uptick this year is more homeless individuals who are either committing crimes against each other or are the victims of crimes, possibly because they're homeless or transient. So that's where we stand with those three incidents. We did have the homicide yesterday. I don't have any additional updates on that. I don't have any victims' names. We are looking at potential suspects in some of these murders. But at this point, it's all very preliminary. So, any questions?
What's the status of the presumably homeless individual who was right?
Yeah, he died at this. I think he might have transported him, and he died either on the way or at the hospital.
So right now, the only victim who is alive is the woman who was grazed by the bullet?
Yes, that's correct. And I don't know if they've talked with her yet.
And everything indicates these are all completely separate from each other. No.
As far as we can tell, they were so close together last night. We had reports, the stabbing kind of confused a lot of things, and then we had other victims too. I think there was a gunshot victim. It might have been the female. I'm not even sure who showed up at UNMH. They thought it was a stabbing victim. So there was a lot of confusions, and especially the Valley Area Command was having to respond to all of them. We did have to borrow detectives from other units to help out our homicide team. So our homicide team, our major crime investigators, everyone did a great job and worked through the night, and they're still working hard today to try to solve these crimes.
In regards to two of the incidents, the one at Copper and the one on 4th Street, those ones seem to be cleared up pretty quickly compared to the one on 2nd and Gold. Is there a reason as to why?
I don't know. It probably just depends on how many witnesses or what kind of evidence was at the scene. I'm not sure what time they cleared any of them.
Will there be more control downtown?
We, like I said, and last week as well, we have had officers literally within blocks of some of these homicides as they occurred. It just seems to be really brazen on some of these people who are bringing guns downtown, or in the one case, the stabbing. Cops are just right down the street, and these incidents still have happened. So we have been talking about it today, about what else could possibly be done. Our deputy chiefs are all meeting on this tomorrow to look at and evaluate everything. We've worked closely with our downtown. We have a whole downtown unit. We have detectives and others who are working overtime on the weekends, and they're doing a great job. Our horse-mounted unit, and most of the times it's peaceful, but it has been very violent, and I think, I don't know at this point, all the ages, they all appear to be adults, so it wasn't anyone underage as far as I know. I think there's one that I don't know the age of, but we're still continuing to see that recklessness and carelessness. And I do want to say that the incident yesterday, all four of these, one thing to keep in mind, these are homicide victims. These are shooting victims and stabbing victims that, unfortunately, I know one of the families of the victims who died this weekend, and and I know the family, and it's been really tough just for my own family. So, it's just, I want everyone to think about the fact that these murders, these incidents, these violent incidents do have repercussions far beyond the victim who's deceased. There's a lot of family and a lot of friends who suffer. I know the mother, one of the victims, is just, really upset about this, as we see all the victims' families. So keep that in mind. This isn't just a number or statistic. I know I put out on Friday that homicides were down this year, and we are glad for that, but we still have a lot of homicides and a lot of victims and a lot of families that are just impacted and devastated by this. So keep that in mind.
When something like this happens and these strings of homicides just happen back to back, you talked about some of the challenges that the department is working on addressing. What is the proper steps moving forward to just take them one by one, or is it all going to be all at once?
Well, it's one by one. They're all unique. We see patterns. We look for patterns, and as long as I've been here 7 years, we always have these highs and lows. Like I said, we probably went 6 weeks with maybe 1 or 2 homicides, and now we have a lot of them in just a short time span. So we've seen it before. We know, there are different things that maybe contribute to these high incidents. I can't really explain why in July we only had 2 homicides, actually 3. That was a really low number for recent years. So, like I said, we do look for patterns. Like I said, we've been seeing more homeless as victims and perpetrators. We see some of these downtown. It was just, we had a phone call, a Zoom call this week on all the gun crimes, and on our weekly call, and one of the commanders noted that there seem to be very few party shootings, which we typically see in the summer. They do sometimes pick up in the fall when school starts, but that's something we've seen a lot fewer of this year. Yeah.
And for the second case, the 6th and Copper, you said that there was a warrant out. Did this person have previous history or anything that you can mention about the warrant that you have out for this person?
I'm not sure about the history of them. I just know it's 2 brothers. They don't have the warrant yet. We're waiting. They need to get approval from the district attorney and from the judge, but the homicide detectives are working on that.
This is not related to the downtown homicides. There was a homicide on Eastern Florida yesterday morning. I'm aware that a female was apprehended over on Smoke City on Central. Is there any update on that?
I'm not aware of a female apprehended on. I don't know.
So in terms of suspects in custody, that's you always only have your eye on one suspect, right? The brother. The 2 other cases are
The brother, and like I said, he was detained initially and let go. I do think he is in custody right now and being questioned, and they're working on the warrant. But yeah, he's the only one that's in custody.
So then there's no suspect information yet for the other 2 cases?
There might be suspect information that we can't comment on at this point. Anything else? Okay, thank you.